the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show.
Welcome to the Dep Lewis Show, episode 189. This is your host, Dep Lewis, and today is Sunday, July 19th, 2026. A great day for a podcast about video games and more. I hope you're doing great out there in the world, wherever and whenever you're listening to this. Thank you for being here. The first order of business is to ask you to follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. So find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch Replacing Games live or check out the videos later. If you would like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you'd like to subscribe monthly. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you would like to support the show. And today's show will have three sections as always. The first section, I'll tell you about what video games I've been playing since I've last talked to you on this microphone. The mid section, which is not mid in quality, it's the middle of the show. That's where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. And the third and final section of the show is the Miscellaneous Talk section, where I can talk about anything I want to outside of the video game world. And as always, I want to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams. I'm recording pretty early before the Braves game today, which is nice. It's like 3 hours away. They have been playing the Rangers. They've gone 1-1 against them and hopefully can win the series to start the second half of the season for the Braves. That would be very nice. But there's plenty to get to before we start talking about sports. So let's get into it. And a little bit of a change to this first section this week. I haven't played a ton of games in the past week, so I don't have a lot of updates, but I want to send out some thank yous to the listeners out there. So we're going to get to that in a few, but I want to tell you about what I've been playing in general. So in the past week, I've been playing a little more Forza Horizon 6. I definitely hit a little bit of a standstill with this after getting the gold wristband. I've completed a good majority of the stuff on the map besides some of the things that I'm not really good at. And I guess I'm undecided if I want to try to get good at those things at this point. It's mainly the drifting and mainly the drifting. It's mainly the drifting. It really is. On those Japan tour story beats, you have to do some drifting in there to pass them. And then there's just drift zones all over the world as well. But I do have a lot more of this experience signs to go get. So that could be something fun to do. But I definitely have hit a little bit of a lull in the past week on making any Forza Horizon 6 progress. But it's still firmly the number one game for me for 2026, by I guess like 100 miles or, 1,000 miles or whatever it may be. It's been my favorite game all year so far. I played a whole lot of it so far, and I probably will be playing more of it, but I haven't played a ton in the past week. But I did, in this little bit of a lull or a conundrum I'm in with, completing most of Forza Horizon 6 like I want to. I went back to some Forza Motorsport and trying to continue my save file over there. And switching back to that after playing a lot of Horizon 6 was kind of difficult, and you can kind of notice the more realistic aspects to Forza Motorsport instead of the more arcade racing from Forza Horizon 6. So my skills or lack thereof didn't immediately translate back over to the older game, but it was fun. I really do enjoy the track racing in Forza Motorsport. I like the simplicity of the menu in that game. You can really just look at a menu and there's like a checklist of all the races you completed, so you can really just kind of go down the list. It's not too hard to find one with like a car that you already own in the game, so you don't have to be spending all your in-game credits, and it's a pretty good system, and it's real simple. And I guess some of the racetracks in that game are more simple too, but it seems more difficult right now. I was kind of shocked about how arcadey Forza Horizon 6 felt when I immediately started playing that after coming off Forza Motorsport. So there is a nice like fine tuning between these two games, which I think is really, really good because they're both fun in their own right. I think if I had to pick one side of the Forza house, I think I'm still going Horizon, but the Motorsport side is where I got into the house, and I don't know. I really think it could be a toss-up on day-to-day which side I'm liking more, but I'm really liking the new Forza Horizon 6 and realizing that Forza is probably one of my favorite franchises out there just in general. So those are really the two main games I've been playing this week in any significant fashion. I played a little bit of Ratchet & Clank on PS4, just kind of starting a file there. That's a game I haven't completed before, so maybe I'd like to at some point. And I was looking up some tips and advice on playing Persona 3 Reload. So that's a game that I have a file going on multiple consoles, which is, not helpful for trying to finish the game, but I really do enjoy this game. I talk about it a lot in this show, and I was looking up some advice on what to do and how to handle Tartarus. And one thing that really clicked with me last week was I need to treat Tartarus like I'm leveling up my Pokemon. So, when I played those Pokemon games earlier in the year, one of my favorite parts was just being able to level the characters, especially the ones I really like, and finding the characters that I really like, and spending the leveling time, like listen to a podcast or watching baseball or whatever. It's like being halfway active in a game, and it's very enjoyable if you like to listen to a lot of podcasts. So that is something that I'm probably going to try to take that mindset into the game and see if it can help me proceed at all in Persona 3 Reload. I keep saying I need to focus on playing this on the Switch only, because having multiple save files going at the same time is probably not smart, but I'm slowly and surely trying to figure it out, and I've been doing a little bit of research out there on how I can help my case. They're basically saying that you need to spend 1 or 2 days going to Tartarus and just try to go as far as you can until you hit a wall, and then you actually won't be able to go back to Tartarus until the next full moon, I believe is what it is. So that is really the only strict demand in this game. And they're saying, hey, you need to use Tartarus to be leveling up your characters. It's just going to be helping you out and possibly, over leveling me. And I don't know why that's never really clicked for me in this game, but, maybe it took me playing those Pokemon games earlier in the year to come back to Persona 3 Reload and have this new mindset on or whatever. But I'm still thinking about Persona 3 Reload. I wrote on my notes here, I'm thinking about focusing on it some more, or at least, trying out this new theory of playing it. And I'll report back to you as always, as I do on this show. But that is everything I've been playing in the past week since I've talked to you. Overall, just the theme of the show for the year has been the year of the front log. So I'm not worrying about my backlog. I'm not trying to deep dive into the beginning of a franchise if I don't want to necessarily. It's the year of the front log. It's the year looking forward. And the two things I'm looking forward to most right now would be Marvel's Wolverine on September 15th from Insomniac, I guess one of my favorite developers for sure. And then Grand Theft Auto 6, November 19th, the game that everyone's waiting on, the game that everyone's waiting to see a screenshot of the HUD and see how it's going to be. It's going to be a code in the box. We've been talking about that, but it is going to be one of the biggest eyeball catcher video game release in a very, very long time. And it's going to be interesting to follow and interesting to see how the game is at launch. It's going to come in hot. How is it going to be? How's it going to be running on current hardware? And I'm excited about it. And we're getting, we're in the second half of the year, so these things are really coming in hot, and it's pretty exciting. I'm trying to think if there's any other games on the front log. Maybe Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls looks pretty cool, but I still have more Forza to play. I'm still have some more Pokemon to play. I have Persona, so it's I have a lot of games that I'm interested in at the moment. So it's nice that my front log is a short list because, I won't have time to do all these things. So that's everything I got for you for my video game playing in the past week and the update on the year of the front log. And the last thing I want to do to close out this first section is do a little bit more promotion for the Dep Lewis Show, just to make sure you're aware of all the options going out there and tell you some of the, cool highlights to me. So I'm going to start off with some of the Dep Lewis Show stats from where I stand currently. And these are amazing to me. So that's why I want to share these today. And if you live in any of these places, that's kind of why I want to call these out. I'm specifically speaking to you, and I'm saying thank you for sure. And let's go over it. So there are 103 countries that have listened to Dep Lewis Show. The top 5 are United States, which makes up 46%, which makes sense since I am a United States resident. Singapore is second with 11%, which is really, really amazing. And we're going to talk more about Singapore in a second. Brazil with 8%, and Vietnam 4%, and India with 3%. So, just to say the fact that anyone listens to the show is amazing to me. And this, spread between these countries and being able to track some of these things and see which ones are listening, it's, mind-boggling to me for real. And then the top 10 cities that have listened to Dep Lewis Show, there's 741 in total. When I checked this last week, Singapore is number 1. So, thank you to everybody in Singapore. It's unbelievable. So there are 9% of the downloads, of the breakdown of the cities. They make up 9% of the listens. Dallas, Texas is number 2 with 7%. Des Moines, Iowa with 6%. North Bergen, New Jersey, 5%. Charlotte, North Carolina, 3%. Greenville, South Carolina, 2%. Brooklyn, New York, 1%. Ashburn, Virginia, 1%. Washington, Virginia, 1%. Los Angeles, California, 1%. And there's a couple, a couple of those cities I recognize in there from some friends in real life and friends of the show, so I appreciate that. And if you live in any of those cities, I'm noticing these cities popping up, I guess often or more often, and, I truly appreciate it. It's really, really amazing, and if you enjoy this show, I am very happy about it. So I actually kind of wrote a little bit of 90% of this podcast is freestyling. I have a script and an outline for what I'm going to say, and I have some details like corporate quotes or, game updates from developers and things like that. But, it's all just freestyle between the three sections. So I've actually written something down here to, I guess, promote the show a little more, highlighting just some of the great things going on, which are still hard to believe. So I wrote down, thank you to all these people from these cities specifically. It feels really nice to see some of the same cities pop up week to week. Maybe you have told someone about it as well, and I really appreciate that too. I plan to be a consistent voice for a long time, and I'm shocked by the support I have received already. I'm feeling more pride about this show over time, and it has already been one of my favorite things to do each week for a long time. I'm a really big fan of podcasts myself, and it's a little bit surreal to be doing one myself for this long. I hope you can feel a progression from when I started to where I am now, and I hope that will continue. Listening is always enough, but if you'd like to support the show further, I'd like to recommend Patreon the most. Patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show. I currently have 2 tiers, the ground floor tier and the standard tier. I would like to direct everyone to the ground floor tier first because it is $1 a month, USDs, or a USD, for the first 100 people and will never change in price. This plan will always include all the content of the higher price tiers and will always be the best deal on my Patreon. Currently, Patreon is a place to listen to the podcast ad-free always and also get some exclusive Discord access if you would like to join. There is also another standard tier available that mirrors the ground floor tier for anyone after the first 100 for $3. Additional tiers will likely be introduced in the future. I hope my podcast can continue to grow, and Patreon is the best place I have set up currently for this to give you some options. If you aren't interested in Patreon, it would also help out a lot if you follow Dep Lewis Show in your favorite podcast player of choice. I like Spotify and YouTube currently myself, but Apple Podcast is one of my most popular apps for listens. There are plenty of other places to listen to podcast, and Dep Lewis Show should be available everywhere. If you would like to join Discord, it is free, or Patreon members get exclusive access. That would be the best place to tell me something about your city, any questions you may have, or if you'd like to tell me Dep Lewis Show isn't available on your favorite podcast player or anything of the sort. YouTube comments would also be another good place. I think my current plan is to give updates on the ground floor tier progress to 100 each week, and then maybe do a lengthier update like this once a month or something. I would love more people to listen and need to make a point to promote a little more, which is new to me. There's currently 1 spot taken out of the 100, and that's been since the very beginning, and that's a very supportive friend, and so thank you to him specifically. And just thank you for listening to Dep Lewis Show. Yeah, and I wrote, if I made it through all that without crying, I count that as a win, and I did. So, thank you so much to you for listening out there. I really do appreciate it. I just wanted to take this moment to promote myself a little more, highlight the amazing things that have happened, and, hopefully be prepared for some more to happen in the future. And, that's what I plan to do. And just thank you for listening. And we're going to get back to this show for the midsection after this music. Welcome back to the midsection of Dep Lewis Show, episode 189. This is where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. And the first update is on one of my favorite games of all time and a Dep Lewis Game of the Year award winner, and that's Splatoon 3. So last weekend, there was a Splatfest going on. This was a Splatoon 3 / Splatoon Raiders collaboration Splatfest, and that thing is a wrap. I got to say I didn't participate in the Splatfest this time, so I think it's the first one I really have missed in a while, but I wanted to give you an update on what was the result of the recent Splatfest in Splatoon 3. So the team breakdown for this Splatfest was, what's your fighting style? Speed, power, and tactics. I think this was a tough choice for me. In the game, I would probably have to pick speed. In real life, I don't have any of that. So I was maybe going to be leaning towards team power, but, I wouldn't say I'm really strong or anything. So, maybe it'd be tactics. So I really did have a hard choice of which one to pick here. So maybe that was a reason for not entering. But I wanted to let you know that Team Power has got the power, and they secured the win in the most recent Splatfest in Splatoon 3. So that was just a quick update there on the result of that. I always have fun following the Splatfest. I play in most of them, and will always be keeping you up to date on those on this show. So the collaboration for that Splatfest was with Splatoon Raiders, which is a game that's going to be releasing exclusively for Nintendo Switch 2 on July 23rd. So that is actually in the upcoming week. It's going to be $49.99 USD's digital. The physical copy is $10 more. You can hunt for treasure in a wild adventure in this single-player focused game. Play as a mechanic working with Deep Cut, a trio of swashbuckling musicians, and venture out into the mysterious Spherulite Islands. So this is a game that I'm excited to see some people on the internet playing it and talking about it and seeing what they are thinking. I'm 99% of a Splatoon fan just for the online multiplayer, so I've never really gotten hooked on the single player yet. So if I ever did, I would maybe want to start with Splatoon 3. But, I like everything about Splatoon. I like the characters, I like the art style, I like the gameplay, I like the music, and that could eventually get me into playing some Splatoon Raiders, but I'm in a little bit of a wait and see, and I hope it's going to be a smashing success would be my hope for it. All right, so we're going to stay on the Nintendo side of things. Mario Tennis Fever is a game that came out earlier in the year, February 2026. I was having a great time with this game until it became difficult to find matches to play with people online, which was the main thing I was doing there. And that was really a big downturn on my Mario Tennis Fever. It really broke my fever. But a free update is available now for this game. You can play on the brand new Galaxy Court, which is a very aesthetically pleasing court from Mario Galaxy. Just if you have any affinity for that game, it looks really cool. You can use the black hole racket now to pull in opponents, and you can choose new color options for Luma and more. Game share via game chat support has also been added. You can share the tennis fun online with friends near and far who don't have the game. So I've never really tried any of that out of the game share functionality, but I do think it's a cool option, especially going into this, digital future. And a lot of people do buy digital games just out of convenience. And it's a cool option to be able to play with a friend with one copy kind of thing. And I think that's nice. And I guess the game share, you can actually lend your copy over to a friend. So Mario Tennis Fever, available exclusively for Nintendo Switch 2. It's digitally $69.99 USDs. And I believe it's the same price physically. This was before the change with, I guess it was Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. I might be wrong about that, but it was a game that came out around then where Nintendo is differentiating between the physical and digital prices. So you get a little bit of a discount if you're buying digital, and that's, going forward with Nintendo Switch 2 releases. All right, another game now that has a Switch 2 version. So this game was already on the Switch 1, but it has an upgraded Switch 2 version, and that's Star Ocean: The Second Story R. So I don't have any familiarity with this game, but this one seems a little bit like a cult classic, maybe, maybe higher sales wise than a cult classic, but maybe more of a niche, real passionate audience is kind of what I get from this. It's $49.99 USDs digitally. The one thing here, this is a Square Enix game. The save data is incompatible between Switch and Switch 2 versions, and there's no upgrade path. So I don't know why they would choose this as an option besides wanting you to pay full price for the new game, but it just seems a little bit, I don't know, almost like lazy. It's like, a lot of games give you these options, and I don't know. I think it's maybe a little bit too much of a tactic trying to get people to pay the extra money. I don't know how many people are, I don't know. I guess I really don't understand it necessarily. I don't know how much work goes into it, obviously, but it is a weird feature to be missing. We've seen this before with the recent announcement of Final Fantasy X on the Switch 2 version. It's kind of the same deal with no save data incompatible, and I don't even think there's an upgrade path. So a little bit strange, and that's definitely kind of like a hardcore business move, I guess. But Star Ocean: The Second Story R, the back of the box talk on this one, it's a highly acclaimed second installment in the Star Ocean series. It returns, brought to life with a unique 2.5D aesthetic, which fuses 2D pixel characters and 3D environments. This remake includes everything that made the original release so great, while adding new elements too. Experience new battle mechanics, full Japanese and English voice overs, original and rearranged music, fast travel, and so much more. Discover the definitive version of a classic but modernized JRPG that's perfect for newcomers and long-time fans alike. So that's available right now if you want to play a Switch 2 version of Star Ocean: The Second Story R. All right, another game I mentioned in the first section of the show is Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. The news here is on July 24th, in the upcoming week, the open beta starts for this. So I believe, if you have your PS5, you can download the beta. You'll be able to enter and see how the game's playing and give the developers some feedback in this time. The game's actually going to release very soon. It's just a couple of weeks away. On August 6th, the game's going to be $59.99 USDs. And I think this one is going to be a big hit. I think fighting games are more niche, but this seems like a really excellent one, and one that's going to be like a staple of everybody, or of like fighting game tournaments. And I think just kind of like the mind share, especially with the crossover of all the Marvel characters. It's like I'm saying, I don't know if I read the description, but it's assemble your team of legendary Marvel characters in the ultimate 4v4 tag team fighter from PlayStation Studios, Arc System Works, and Marvel Games. So Arc System Works has is an elite studio, and tearing up with an IP like Marvel, I think there's definitely some room for some mass appeal here with these games. A lot of people have affinity for the Marvel vs. Capcom games from back in the day, and this seemed like it's going to be in the same vein as those, just on a modern version, and possibly one of the best versions of it. So we're going to see on August 6th. I am definitely excited to see some people playing this and see what they're talking about it, and I'm sure I'll be playing this game or trying it out at some point. All right, what else is going on? I want to tell you about Fields of Mistria. The news with Fields of Mistria's patch version 0.16.4 is here. This patch includes performance improvements and bugs and crash fixes. They say thank you to everyone who reported bugs. Your reports helped us identify and resolve several issues addressed in this patch. So Fields of Mistria, it released on August 2024, so it's been a couple years now, or not quite a couple. On Steam, it's in early access. It's developed and published by NPC Studio. I always like to mention this because the great Sarah Pods is the social media and marketing manager over there at NPC Studio for Fields of Mistria. And she's just a really great person to watch on the internet, on the MinMax Show, on the Pew Pew Bang podcast, on her own socials. And she's out there, working hard for Fields of Mistria. So go check out some Sarah Pods. But Fields of Mistria, the back of the box talk on that is start your new life, build the farm of your dreams as you discover a world brimming with possibilities. Magic, romance, and adventure all await you in this nostalgic farming life sim RPG. And that is definitely in the Sarah Pod's wheelhouse. So her stamp of approval on this game definitely holds some weight. But I think everyone who's played Fields of Mistria is interested in it. They think it's it's doing a lot of the things that the farming sim games do, but it has its own unique style and character to it. And I think that's a really cool and really challenging thing to do in general in a genre right now, or in a specific game type that is extremely popular. All right. Just a couple more things to talk about in this midsection this week. Dragon's Dogma 2 Dark Arisen. We got some new commentary from the director and the producer, so I'm going to tell you about that. But Dragon's Dogma 2 Dark Arisen releases October 9th, so a couple months away for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, Steam, and the really cool one in there is Switch 2. So normally we're seeing like a cadence of a third-party game coming out on other platforms and then taking a couple months or a little bit longer even to come to Switch 2. Dragon's Dogma 2 is doing it all on the same day, so maybe we're going to be seeing some more precedent for this, which is exciting, and it's going to be some more work on the developers. But I think this having it available on release, I think the sales numbers that they want to see from that probably makes it a strong incentive to try to do that. But so it'll probably be a goal for most of these companies, would be my guess. But being able to actually execute it, and that could be the question, and we could, possibly be, prepared for some delays there. But I think that's a really, really cool thing in general, and something that I'm excited to see across a lot of different third-party games on the Switch too. But Dragon's Dogma 2 Dark Arisen enriches the dynamic fantasy world and expansive adventures of Dragon's Dogma 2 with unforgettable new tales and thrilling encounters. Based on feedback we received after the initial release of Dragon's Dogma 2, we established 3 goals for ourselves when we went to update and expand the game. They want to enhance the gameplay, expand the adventures, and enticing value. And I think that's actually some pretty cool insight into what they were doing. Like, it's definitely like a corporate thing. Hey, we're going to try to establish some goals. But I think it's just the right amount of letting us know what's going on without getting into too much minutia or too much like flowery corporate talk. I think this is actually like pretty cool. Director Kento Kinoshita and producer Naoto Oyama provided new information about the game, and the key takeaways I saw from a summary were the development took under just 2 years. The new story takes about 15 to 20 hours. So that's pretty substantial. That's very substantial. 12 dungeons added to the base game. Switch 2 mouse mode is not supported, and the decision to port to Switch 2 happened later in development after seeing success with Resident Evil Requiem and Pragmata. So I guess that's kind of what I was just saying. I think these dollar signs are looking too good to these companies, and that is, really, really good news for Nintendo Switch 2 owners. And I think, yeah, that for me, that's been the dream on the Switch 2, is for it to play the first party Nintendo stuff and then play the third party stuff better. And it's doing exactly that. And, just shout out to everybody putting in all that kind of hard work. So Dragon's Dogma 2 Dark Arisen is going to release on October 9th. All right, now we got some studio updates here. A little bit here. We've been getting a lot of updates. This is actually like more of a positive one. And, I'm not talking about layoffs here, so you don't have to worry about that. But we're getting a note from Bethesda Game Studios. So I'm going to read through some of these quotes from Bethesda that they released last week. All right, so a note from Bethesda Game Studios. We love making these worlds as much as you love playing in them. Today, we want to share what's next for Bethesda Game Studios and what you can expect from us in the years ahead. For 40 years, we built games that have entertained almost 500 million players. More than just games, these are worlds for you to explore, shape, and make your own. Worlds we return to together. That's what's driving us forward. We're investing more deeply in the worlds players love, giving creators a bigger role in shaping their experiences and bringing our teams closer together so we can get our games into your hands sooner, support them longer, and continue building them alongside you for decades to come. So they're definitely saying all the right things in here. This is like if you see those like TikToks or something, it's like, hey, I'm going to say all my dog's favorite words on the phone while, pretend or whatever. This is like saying all the gamers' favorite words in one thing here. So I think this is pretty smart to me so far. So some of the updates from Bethesda. Fallout 5, they say Fallout 5 remains our long-range destination, and we have multiple Fallout projects in active development right now. I think I would be extremely excited for Fallout 5. I would love for Fallout 5 to have a little bit less of the Bethesda jank when it releases and be more complete of a game. And I guess it seems like they had to have gotten that feedback from Fallout 4 and Fallout 76. And with these games, especially with these like precious franchises that a lot of people love, like you really should take your time. I know that's probably harder to factor into the development cycle, but really taking your time with these things that people care about is obviously important, and it seems like that's what they are trying to communicate here. Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. They say we also know many players want to revisit previous Fallout experiences. While we're not announcing any dates today, we have been working on remasters for both Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. So just another thing that I think everybody has been like, hey, why haven't they done this sooner? You see Capcom over there releasing Resident Evil remakes and improving them and having crazy sales and people liking those games better than the originals even. And a lot of these companies who are, having a hard time or having to have a huge budget to spend a long time making these brand new games, you can put a little bit less work into remastering something as long as take good care of the franchises and games that people care about. You will probably make a good bit of money from there. And often some of these remakes might not even be like a full price game too, which is nice. Maybe they get in the more 50, I guess 50 seems like the $49.99 feels like a discount these days because it is. But I think this is kind of a no-brainer and something that I would be excited to see. Fallout 3 is definitely up there on one of my favorite games that I've played, and just super, super memorable. And it would be like getting the Oblivion remaster the other year, where just a game I really love from the past, getting a new shinier version is pretty cool. And then the most elusive thing from Bethesda, the thing that definitely one of my favorite video game franchises of all time. It's hard for me to pick which one is my favorite, but the Elder Scrolls 6. You ever heard of it? It's only been in development for 73 years or whatever it may be. But the Elder Scrolls 6, they say, is our primary development focus today. With the majority of our team currently working on the next chapter of the franchise, with over 65 million copies sold, players are still exploring Skyrim 15 years later, but we know it's been a very long wait for the sequel. The next chapter is on the way. We're where we plan to be, loving how it looks and playing every day. I remember the day I got Skyrim, I guess it was 2011, and just a really amazing experience. These games have always lived up to the hype. Morrowind was the first one I played. Oblivion got really, really hooked on, and Skyrim has been the game, like they say, everybody's been playing for 15 years. And I'll be excited to get to play the new Elder Scrolls 6. I think this was a good reminder here in this update, because it's something that I really don't think about too often, and it is one of my favorite video game franchises of all time. So it's going to be a great day when that ever releases, and this is a nice reminder that, it's coming at some point. That's no word on when, but it's coming. All right, so that was a big update from Bethesda and some of their main things going on. We also got a little bit of a side update from Obsidian, which is kind of related. So the news here is that Obsidian is working on another Fallout project. So Bethesda, there's a quote from them saying, "The Wasteland continues to expand as we team up once again with our longtime friends at Obsidian Entertainment. We're happy to confirm they're working with us on a new Fallout project. We'll have more to share in the future." So let's see here. All right, so that's all the updates on the Fallout. That's a lot of updates and a little bit of an update in there on the Elder Scrolls 6. The last bit of news I want to bring to you this week is an update on the PlayStation 5 FlexStrike wireless fight stick. And the news here is that it's delayed due to unexpected production delays. It'll launch at a later date. So a couple weeks ago, PlayStation announced that they are going to quit printing physical discs, and they posted this on their social media, got intense backlash that is still continuing on, and they were like radio silent for like 5 or 6 days on there. And the first thing they posted about was, hey, don't, get excited for the PlayStation 5 FlexStrike wireless fight stick coming out, and now they're having to announce that it's delayed. So they're saying, "We're working to ensure we deliver the best possible experience to our players with FlexStrike, so we're taking extra time to put the finishing touches on this product. We apologize for the delay and are looking forward to bringing the FlexStrike experience to the community when it launches. It's built for PlayStation 5 and PC and is designed with competitive play and portability in mind. With an included sling, carry case, and a built-in rechargeable battery, it's easy to bring your fight stick to a tournament, meetup, or a friend's place to jump right into the action. It's $199.99 USDs. And even thinking now, this is something that they should have had out before Marvel Token's Fighting Souls, and maybe something they'll be able to do so. But I think I said earlier that game's coming out on August 6th. So I think the market for fight sticks is pretty niche. So it's a little bit strange that they're making such an ordeal of this. Maybe the cross promotion of a great fighting game coming out alongside a fighting stick would increase sales, and that would make sense. But it seems like they're fumbling that here at launch, and someone over there at Sony has to be upset about that, would be my opinion over there. But I think fight sticks are really cool. I've had one in the past. They're definitely bulky to keep in store if you're not like playing them a lot. So that would be my only complaint about them, but they are definitely fun to play on. And I could see myself owning one, another day in the future. But that's everything I got for you for the midsection of the show this week. We talked about Splatoon 3. We talked about Splatoon Raiders. We talked about Mario Tennis Fever, Star Ocean, the Second Story R. We talked about Marvel Token Fighting Souls, Fields of Mistria, Dragon's Dogma 2, Dark Arisen. We talked about some updates from Bethesda on Fallout 5, Fallout 3, and Fallout New Vegas, and the Elder Scrolls 6. We talked about Obsidian, and we talked about the PlayStation 5 FlexStrike wireless fight stick, a very, very long name for a fight stick. But that's everything I got for you for the midsection of the show, and that's going to wrap up all the video game talk. But there is one final section of the show left to go. That's the Miscellaneous Talk section, where I can talk about anything I want to outside of the video game world, and we are going to get into that after this music. Welcome back to the final section of Dep Lewis Show, episode 189. This is the Miscellaneous Talk section, where I can talk about anything I want to outside the video game world. So as always, I want to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams. And it was a very, very light week on sports for all of my teams, so it's going to be very brief. But let's start with the NFL. As always, the Carolina Panthers, my favorite team. It's the offseason for them. I believe official training camp starts very, very soon, so it'll be fun to check out some of that. I think they're having Fan Fest sometime pretty soon, where you can go to the stadium and watch practice. That's always pretty fun to do. And the real date, well, I guess not the real date, but it's a pretty good date. The first preseason game, which is the Hall of Fame game, is taking place Thursday, August 6th, same day as Marvel Token Fighting Souls. And Panthers are going to be playing at the Cardinals in Ohio at the Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio. So that is, very, very upon us. And I guess training camp probably does start this week, would be my guess. So I might have to report back to you on that one next week. And then for the NBA, there's nothing going on. I'm a halfway fan of the Charlotte Hornets because I've been a North Carolina resident for the last couple of years, but it's the offseason for them. Once again, everyone's just, watching the dust settle from the LaMelo Ball trade. And I'm still sad about that. I'm going to be pretty salty. If the Hornets are going to be really bad next year, that's going to be disappointing. If they're going to be somewhere close to where they are, I think that's what people should expect. But I don't think you should expect them to be better than they were last year. And then my favorite team in the NBA is the Atlanta Hawks. Offseason for them as well. Nothing going on with them except for the Kuminga decision, which I don't think has been made yet. I don't think they're going to land any more free agents. I don't know who's available out there. And, I'm still in a little bit of the heartbreak stage from the Trae Young trade for the Hawks. So maybe it's going to take, all the way for the beginning of the season to come around for me to finally be back on board fully with my favorite NBA team, the Hawks. But the other NBA stuff going on, LeBron is supposed to announce his decision for a new team next week. I think if I had to guess, I'm going to say Golden State. I know Draymond took less money. LeBron has the chemistry with, or he's friends with Draymond, has the chemistry with Steph from the Olympics. And I think he's willing to maybe not take as much money. So we're going to see about that. And that'll be interesting to see. I think the other NBA stuff would be the Kawhi Leonard investigation going on. There's a Gary Trent investigation going on, kind of for the same thing of the Kawhi Leonard he got paid like $40 million, like under the table from some type of company for a sponsorship, but it was like a no-show sponsorship or something. So it was basically, hey, here's $40 million to kind of sweeten the deal. So, you really can't be doing that over there with the salary cap and all those kind of things. And then Gary Trent Jr., the story there was that maybe they did like a handshake deal where they were going to pay him less money early for the first couple of years and then give him a bigger chunk of change later on when his bird rights, when he's like able to make more money or something. So it's basically like they said, hey, we're going to get you on year 3. And everyone's kind of pointing out that his stats were really, really down last year. Players with his comparable stats aren't making anywhere close to that money. So that has gotten them under investigation. So, even thinking about it, the NBA is going through some tough stuff with all the gambling, and now they have all these side deals and things like that coming to light. And it's not hard to imagine that these things take place, but it is definitely not a good thing. So it's causing some harm to the sport for sure. But, we'll have to just wait and see. It's kind of wild out there. So there's still some good free agency stuff to be completed, but I don't know if any of it will be related to the Hornets or the Hawks. So just kind of the offseason over there in the NBA for my favorite teams. And then my favorite team in the universe, the Atlanta Braves, got a little bit of a break last week with the All-Star break. But since I talked to you last week, they finished off the first half of the season at the Cards. It was a 2-15 game, and the Braves won 4-3 to close out the first half of the season. So the Braves were 55-40 at the midway point. I think they're like 4th in the entire league overall, and then they are 1st in the NL East, but they have the Phillies and the Marlins, sniffing at their heels, which is worrisome. So the Braves, were off earlier in the week. The Home Run Derby was on Monday. Jordan Walker from the Cards won. This was on Netflix, which was kind of unusual. It seems like Netflix struck a deal with MLB. They're going to be the home of the Home Run Derby for the next couple of years. So that's something to note out there in the world. People were complaining about the broadcast a little bit, and I think that's pretty typical. We've seen that with Amazon when they get into this new avenue of streaming, that they might not have all the kinks worked out immediately, and then the consumer over here, the people watching, have to pay the price. The All-Star game was on Tuesday. The American League won 4-0. There was one home run in that game pretty much, and it was a pitching, they skunked him over there on the NL side. So, none of the Braves really represented too great over there besides just, being great Braves and out there looking cool in the uniforms. But it was a fun game to watch. It's always fun to get to see the mishmash of players and combinations and things, and all those great players in one spot. So it's always fun to get caught up a little bit in the All-Star festivities. And then all the MLBers got a break finally Wednesday and Thursday off days. And then baseball's been back this weekend, which has been a very triumphant and wonderful return. So the Braves have been playing in Atlanta versus the Rangers. So shout out to friend of the show and friend of real life Pab over there playing his favorite team. The Braves won Friday night 15-1. Not too bad of a result there to start the second half of the season. And then last night the Braves lost 6-7. It was a pretty close game. I think a little bit of a back and forth in there, but the Braves ultimately lost. And the Braves are going to finish out this first series of the second half of the season today versus the Rangers at 1:35 p.m., which is, just a couple hours away from real time. So that's pretty nice. And then next week, there's no break in next week. There's going to be all baseball, 7 days, all next week. The Braves are in Atlanta to start the week. First the Padres for 4 games, and then they fly up to Baltimore for 3 to close out the weekend. So I'm hoping, those are 2 tough teams. I think certainly the Braves can get a lot of wins, but out of 7, I definitely want to see over 4. That would be very nice. And, I'll report back to you on all my favorite teams next week, as always. So that is really all the sporting updates have for you. I'm trying to think if I have any other MLB news in general. I don't think so. I'm just, it's always a little bit sad with some days without the baseball, but when it comes back, it's even better. So, shout out to baseball being back. I'm very excited for a fun second half of the season. So that's everything I got for you for the Miscellaneous Talk section. We talked about all my favorite teams, the Carolina Panthers, the Charlotte Hornets, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Atlanta Braves. And that is going to close out this final section. That's going to close out the entire show. So I'd like to reiterate some promotional talk from the beginning. Please follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. So find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch me play some games live or check out the videos later. If you would like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you like to subscribe monthly. And we are currently at 1 out of 100 for the ground floor tier, which is $1 a month and will never change in price and will always include any content of the higher price tiers. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime for any amount if you would like to support the show. And I thank you so much for listening. I thank you for listening to the extra promotion. That's something that I think I'm just going to track the ground floor tiers, see if we can get some more subscribers over there on Patreon. That would be nice, and just give you an update on that. Maybe I'll do kind of like a more formal update on like a promotional update just every so often. But I really, really do appreciate you for listening, especially in all those cities I mentioned and all those countries I mentioned earlier. Just extra thank you to you. And I truly appreciate it. And, I hope you continue to listen. I'll be back next week. As always, I'll be excited to tell you what's going on. I'm trying to think, I had kind of a light week on playing video games, so I don't really know. I completed a few games earlier in the year, so I might just be in a little bit of a wait and see mode. It might just be kind of like a Persona 3 reload, see if I can make any progress there. Definitely going to watch a lot of baseball. And definitely be keeping up with what's going on around the video game world. And I'll be back next week to tell you about it. I hope you have a great one out there. If things are going your way, I hope that continues. If things are not going your way, I hope that changes. And either way, I'll talk to you next week. Goodbye.